think someone said once, it's always best to begin at the beginning. I'm going to issue a warning up front. Between my ADD and executive dysfunction, I'm going to tell you right now, my brain can't begin at the beginning. So buckle up, because I don't know where we're headed.
0, 1.
Hey y'all, it is the Curly Stitcher. My name is Jennifer. My pronouns are she, her. Welcome to my channel. You can find me as the Curly Stitcher also on Instagram, Gumroad, Ko-fi, Patreon. That would be Astro. He is not happy because I have locked him out of the room, because this would take far longer if he were in the room than if he just goes out or stays out there and meows till we're done. So welcome everyone. I hope you all have been well these past few months. For those of you like myself who are a child of divorce, a little bit of humor, you may only get to see me on the holidays, and the only chance I get to record and have time to record and edit seems to be now when I have extra days off. So you're getting me on a holiday. It is July 4th here in the States. We don't really celebrate in this house. Lots of issues with the holiday. I know our Canadian friends had a similar holiday here a few days ago, so I think we kind of understand each other's position on holidays like this one. So for those of you who do have the day off, I hope you are using it for time to give back or to reflect or to put forth some kind of effort to do a little something better for your community or the part of the world in which you live. Here it's one of those deals where I sit in my house and try to stay as comfortable as possible and hope that my pets don't cower when the fireworks used to go off over the lake, which is a walk. Like, I can walk to the lake from here. It's not outside my door, but I can walk probably 10-15 minutes to get to it. They used to fire them off over the lake. Several years ago, there was an athletic facility built that has baseball fields, soccer fields, those kinds of things. So they've started doing a kind of an event over there now, and I think that's where the fireworks display will be tonight. So I think it's going to be far enough away from the house that, like, if I went out my backyard I could probably hear them, but I wouldn't be able to see them for sure, and I don't think it'll affect the cats as much. But when they used to shoot them over the lake, the cats that we had then did not, they didn't panic or get scared like I know some animals do, but they definitely knew something was going on outside. You know, they kind of perked up for a minute until they realized, oh, that's not going away. So they just settled down and got used to it. But other than that, it's miserable, hot, heat-wise, temperature-wise. So I hope everywhere you're watching, you have either cooler temperatures or you are staying indoors and taking care of yourself and taking care of your body. I think for a lot of us too, this heat tends to, the exhaustion from the heat, and also the only time that you can really get out and do anything, feel motivated, is like early in the mornings, especially here, because the heat doesn't go away when the sun goes down because it's just kind of baked in now. So the heat pretty much will stay. It'll just be less severe. But the sun doesn't go down till 8:30 or 9 o'clock. So or isn't completely gone until then. So yeah, you're the only time for any kind of motivation, whether it's yard work or cleaning up or anything like that, tends to be either most cases it's early in the morning. So that's when we get most of everything done. Um, so you might be wondering what's been going on with me. I haven't been here since March, I think. March, is that right? Long story short is, and I think I've mentioned my job before, not specifics, but just generally speaking, my job is just kind of a lot. A lot have changed. A lot of changes have occurred in the last probably 9 months. A lot of things happened over the end of the year last year internally. Just changing third party companies that we work with and stuff like that, and that just kind of created the snowball effect of all the things that we used to rely on one company to do, or having to teach a new company to do. And it's not important, but needless to say, there's myself and my boss, and we're the only two people that do what we do in our department. So it's between the two of us trying to juggle all of these things, but then add on, all the things we already had that we did, but now we just created more chaos kind of in our lives. And to be quite honest, I think she and I would both agree that this is the first time we have felt like we could breathe a little bit. And I say that out loud knowing that also changes. We felt that way probably at the end of June a little bit too, or May, the end of May, the first part of June, and it was like, and then another wave hit. So I think it's probably, we're going to be roller coaster riding this probably for a year to 18 months. So hopefully by maybe the beginning of 2025, routines will kick in, and it'll get a lot easier. January's always busy for us anyway, but yeah, I think this is the first time we felt like we could get a better handle on things. And maybe part of that too is just half of the year is over, so there's a lot that goes on for us, deadlines and stuff like that happen the first part of the year. Like she's taken a couple of small vacations. She took one around Mother's Day, which is like right around her birthday as well. She and her mom went, took a small vacation. And then there have been a couple of weekends that she's taken off to go with, trips with friends and stuff. So I'm actually taking my first official, like, legit get out of town for a few days vacation in a couple of weeks. So I'm looking forward to that. And on that front, I will add that for those of you that do watch this, and know, I had been doing, or have been doing, Friday afternoon live streams. So during the summer, our company switches over to what they call them summer hours, but all it is Fridays from like Memorial Day to Labor Day, basically during the summer months. They let us off a few hours early. And because I'm typically not in the office on Fridays, I will set up live to work on a project on YouTube. So if you happen to be around on Fridays, typically I haven't been very consistent. Nithya will attest to that. The original idea was to be on here around 3:30 Central Daylight Time. I'm in Texas. But some of those days it's been closer to like 4, just because there have been things going on behind the scenes, but also because it takes a little time to set up. And 3 o'clock, just because we get to be done with our day at 3 o'clock doesn't mean things don't still happen like right at 3, that phone calls. I mean, the rest of the world is still working at 3 o'clock on a Friday, so we still have to make sure, everything gets managed or that needs to be handled. So there have been a couple of Fridays that have been kind of hectic here lately. So I haven't been able to. There've been 2 Fridays that I think that I was not on here. One of them I know of, but I think both of them it ended up being because I needed to go into the office. There were things going on that I needed to be physically in the office for. I know one of them was last Friday. But I think there was one other one as well, and I think that was the situation. The other thing I realized too in deciding to do this on Fridays was I knew this about my company, and so I also schedule like doctor's appointments on Fridays and vet appointments on Fridays because I'm not having to take any time off to go do those things. So yeah, so it's also one of those deals where I kind of use those days to that advantage. All that to say that if you happen to see, I've been trying to put up a place card holder on this channel when I know I'm going to be able to do a Friday stream. Like tomorrow, the 5th, I'm hoping to be able to do a Friday stream. I don't think we really have anything going on tomorrow, work-wise, and I know I'll be home. I won't be at the office, but if I put up if I know by like noon-ish, 1 o'clock, that I'm going to be done for the day in a couple hours, I will put up a little place card holder to let you know, just to kind of, try to make it public. I think the first day that I did that, something happened technically, but ever since then, I can't seem to start the live on the feed that I created. It's like some technical, I think it's just something in my brain it's not making sense to me, but for whatever reason I end up starting it and then immediately either accidentally logging off or something happens and I have to start it over again. So anyway, but yes, Fridays from now until about Labor Day. The exceptions will always be like I'll be on vacation in a few weeks, in a couple of weeks, and that Friday, of course, I'll be out of town. Now, if for some odd reason I'm somewhere where I can pop on for a little bit because, I don't know, everybody else is gone. I don't think so, because I think it's going to be like the last day before we fly home or whatever, so I don't think that's probably going to work anyway. But if something bizarre occurs, some kind of timing occurs, maybe. But yeah, other than that, I'll try to be here, It's right now, it seems like it's been every other Friday, but that may end up being the status quo for the rest of the summer, I don't know. But every other Friday's still productive and still get stuff done. Also, just a little bit of backstory. So, back in June, the first part of June, we had some severe weather come through my town specifically, and it was the kind of deal where it woke me up at like 5 in the morning, because not only was it thunder, lightning, all that, high winds, rain, but the power went out. Can you hear him? He's just such a mess. Power went out, and if we didn't have a tornado, we had tornado-like winds, because when the sun finally, it rained straight for like 2 weeks, but that particular day, the rain and wind was so bad, like when it was all kind of over for the day, one of the neighbors had like a party tent up in their backyard that was basically mangled and tossed into our front yard. Trees were down everywhere. Just about every major retail, commercial plaza had like trees that were uprooted, thrown, whatever. There was a couple of buildings that had like there's one building in particular that I know because I tried to go deliver something to FedEx. Like, I dropped it off like the evening before, and so it was like after pickup hours, but it was going to be delivered, or it's going to be picked up the next day. Well, that day happened to be the next day. The storms were so bad that the it was a FedEx. There was like a crumble cookie place. There's a nail salon around the corner. There's an AT&T store. There's a couple other things, but basically it was so bad that like the trees in their little shopping center, several of them had been completely jerked out of the ground, but ones that hadn't had, branches had broken off and split. But their building had debris everywhere, had roof damage. Like, basically, I had a package that was supposed to go out and it didn't get delivered at all. I had to actually go pick it up. Me and about 5 or 6 other people had stuff held there, and we were calling for days and days and days and days trying to figure out. Well, it was because nobody could get in the building. They were trying to make sure that it was safe for employees to go back after everybody cleaned everything up. But several, like our whole neighborhood, the power was out, which included a retail little shopping center right behind us over here that has like a grocery store and a gas station and, the typical corner retail kind of little, plaza. And nobody had power all day. I had to go at some point to get ice because I had to figure out whether or not everything in my refrigerator was going to survive. That was, like this happened like on a Monday or a Tuesday or something. It's like you go to the grocery store on the weekend and then all of a sudden you come home, put everything in the fridge, and the next day the power goes out and you don't know when the power is going to come back on. That was kind of the scary thing that day. Was usually if the power goes out around here for like weather reasons, goes out for a couple hours and you're fine. It'll come back on eventually. But this was like we literally didn't hear from any company or anything like that, but I knew when I went out to go find a place that did have power, that did have ice, and I had to drive a ways, because everybody was having power outage issues. When I came back through and realized like everybody, as I'm driving through town, I realized everybody's been affected. There are, trees down everywhere. There's city crews out cleaning up, like the medians and between the lanes of traffic and stuff. I mean, it was just an absolute scary deal. But yeah, I got the big cooler out that we use like when we go camping and stuff. Packed everything in it I could with ice, and then everything else that was left I put in the freezer. We have a deep freezer out in our garage, but then just the freezer in the fridge was big enough to hold like everything else, and then put another bag of ice in there, and just try to make it work. And then finally, I think, if I remember correctly, so power was out, which meant internet was out, which meant like everybody, the cellular towers around here were being just bombarded by people. Like you couldn't even get like weather report. You couldn't use the internet because everybody was trying to suck the bandwidth out of every cell tower, and I don't know how far. I had to email my boss because it was a work day and tell her, I was like, look, power's gone out, internet's gone out. I can't, I can't leave my house really because the neighborhood looks like a, storm blew through here. I think it was afternoon before I was actually able to leave the neighborhood to go get ice, just because of all the, people trying to clean up all the debris up and down our street. But anyway, I think it was after dark or just about dark when our power finally came back on. So we were probably without power more than 12 hours. And I was just grateful that it did, because I know there are people in other parts of the area that didn't have power for like several days. Had to go find somewhere to, I told my boss, I'm like, I'm grateful we didn't have to work, or we don't have to go into work every day, because I was like, I didn't know if my power was going to come back on, which meant I didn't know if I was going to be able to take a shower, take a shower with a flashlight, that kind of thing. I mean, it was crazy. But I was fortunate that we go camping enough that we have enough stuff. So like the cooler and like we have a huge battery backup system that we take with us for like you plug in solar panels to charge it, but you can also bring it in like your home and charge it like when you're not out. But it's designed to like power all your devices, all of your whatever for like several days, which it did. I mean, I kept my phone and my iPad and something else. Oh, I had a couple of those power banks that I would like, when my phone was charged, I would put a power bank on as kind of a backup in case I needed it. But I barely made a dent in like 12 hours. I didn't even take, if there's like 4 little lights, like one of the lights might have gone off. So, anyway, so we had that. I was grateful for that. But yeah, it was just an absolute mess. But then in addition, at some point during the day, I hear this loud crash. And I can't tell where it's coming from. I mean, I couldn't tell. It sounded like it was in the house, but it's like, I don't know where it is. So you start checking every room. Come to find out, like, I'm in a spare bedroom. We have 2 spare bedrooms and a spare bathroom. I go look in the spare bathroom, and the entire ceiling, well, not the entire ceiling, but like, one third of the ceiling in the bathroom has collapsed on the floor. Insulation, wet drywall, all of it. So now we're currently waiting. We did get the insurance claim done, part done, so that's good. But we're still waiting on somebody to come out. But basically, our spare bathroom, if you look up at the ceiling, you can see the roof of our house. I mean, you can see the like we have one of those older attic vents that have the turbine. You can see it. You can see daylight. So that was a nightmare because the day that happened, we continued to get rain for almost 2 weeks, which meant water was still coming. We've still got roof damage that's got to be fixed, but kept getting rain and rain and rain. So I ended up going, a friend or a coworker suggested buying a kiddie pool, an inflatable kiddie pool. Now I did not inflate it, but what I did was I took, because it kind of had stiff plastic walls, and just basically lined the entire floor of that bathroom. So it's in there. Currently with no water in it, but it was like every day that it rained, I had to go back there, try and either pick it up or maneuver it over to the bathtub and dump it, and then lay it all back out. And that happened for like 2 weeks. So it's just miserably hot and dry now, but we're still having to deal with that. So that has been, in a nutshell, the last several months. It's been a lot. So, yeah, I hope everyone else is doing okay. And I hope you are all taking care of yourselves and of each other and doing what you can. So with that, let's get on to what I've been working on. I will put a couple of disclaimers up front here. I'm not going to remember everything. There are some things that I don't think, or I shouldn't say I don't think, but I can't remember if I showed them on the last one, and I'm not going to go back and watch the last one. I barely got time to put a video together for you all, so that's that. But I will say there were a couple of things that I do remember, or I was looking back through my Notion app, and I realized were kind of finishes in March that I came after my last video, but I put the videos out about them. So one of them was my Hildy strawberry that I did a finish video for. The other one was my Embrace the Chaos that I finished, that I did the bag finish for. So I did want to tell you about that. But there are going to be some other things that I think are probably going to be missed. But I will touch on briefly certain things just because I worked on them. And I don't think I'm going to go... I'm going to try to go chronologically because that's the way this app is designed, right? But I'm not going to... Well, for those of y'all that have watched these before, you know me. I'm all over the place, so just bear with me. But I do kind of want to do certain things together, if that makes... Well, it'll make more sense as we go along. So March. Did the strawberry, finished the strawberry. Finished the Embrace the Chaos. Did the bag. And those were both for... they were doing a Michelle Garrett Bendy Stitchy Bendy birthday thing, so I wanted to get those done to post for that. The other thing that I don't have in here, it's probably with my other scarves and stuff, is my Take Up Space bandana that I did. That was her... It was a market freebie, I think, that Michelle... Like, if you purchased any market stuff, it was you might have gotten it for free. Like, I usually do an online shopping thing, so I got it through one of my online purchases. So I took that pattern. I didn't do the border, I just did the flower and the words, but that was my first attempt with waste canvas, and it turned out really good. So, and I've got a second project that I've started, but I'm not going to talk about it right now. I'll talk about it when I finish it, because it'll be a little while. I kind of put that to the side as I get distracted by the projects. So, so the next thing I will talk about really quick is there have been 2 round robins that I am in the second most magnificent Ink Circles round robin, which is being hosted by Julia, and my partners are, just so happens to be Michelle of Bendy Stitchy Designs, Nuri of Shaded Stitchery, and Paula, whose Instagram handle I think is Grandma Poo. But anyway, so my pick was the Hamza Mandala by Ink Circles, and I chose to do a Roxy Flossco conversion. So I will put my finish, my first quarter here. If you all do watch Michelle, you've probably seen her work on it. She's worked on it on a couple of live streams, I think, like Twitch streams, and then has shown it off, you know, a couple of times at the beginning and at the end. So she has now passed that along. So go find her channel or her Instagram or something. You'll see an updated version of it. And then of course the second round just ended, which I received from Nuri. So Nuri, if I can get this right, Nuri passes to me, I pass to Michelle, Michelle passes to Paula, and then Paula to Nuri. So Nuri's was the henna mandala, which this was an absolutely gorgeous... I may actually want to, if we do this again, I may actually want to do this one. First of all, Nuri's choice of fabric and silk was just incredible. I am in a group, I think we're all doing 32 count even weave. So Nuri's was 1/2, so was mine. But Nuri chose a Gloriana, and is absolutely, called Cinnamon Roll, and is absolutely gorgeous. And what was kind of interesting was, I'll put a picture of my finish of the second quarter here. when the first quarter was done and I started in on mine and I was still working with that first hank, that first card of it, I realized that however it was trimmed, there's a section of that silk that had very, 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 very vivid bright pink and orange and yellow. And by the time it got to my portion, I only got to stitch a little section of that, those bright colors, and then everything else was much more earthy, kind of warm autumn autumnal colors. And so I started to not panic, but I started to just really look at it for a minute. I was like, why does this first section look so much brighter and then mine doesn't? And I was like, I do have some of that color in mine, so I think that Gloriana silk was just that variegated as far as colors. So it was absolutely gorgeous, and it definitely makes me want to find some Gloriana silk and stitch more with it. It was an absolute blast to stitch that for her, so I'm super, super excited. So that has been passed on to Michelle, otherwise I'd show it to you. And just as a side story, I freaked out because I had it done last week, well in time for the end of the month. Had bought, or not bought, I had gone by the post office to pick up, I picked up 2 different priority mail, one of the cardboard, if you're familiar, cardboard envelopes, and one of the slightly larger, they're made out of like that Tyvek material, and it just so happened Nuri had like the perfect, she had the bag with her project in it, but she'd also included like a, and I'll give you an example, this isn't it, but it looked kind of like this, a cardboard insert to keep her project flat, which was absolutely a really wise, smart decision. So I was trying to make sure I had an envelope big enough that I could continue to pass along the cardboard piece so her project would stay flat, so stay stiff, in the mail. But anyway, so the Tyvek envelope ended up being the one that I ended up using. Well, I took it because all this time had passed and I had been carrying it around with me, like, I can't remember what the deal was, but I don't think I went to the post office to pick up those envelopes because our post office has weird hours. So I had to find a time when they were open and I was out, running errands or whatever. So by the time I got the envelopes, I got to work Monday, and then I realized I hadn't printed the label to put on it, and I was going to do it at work Monday. That didn't happen. So I had it with me, and then I kind of forgot it was tucked in my backpack, my work bag. So I was like, okay, I've completely forgotten about this thing. So Tuesday night, I put it all together, put it in the bag, got the label done. Then Wednesday morning when I went in, because I go in Monday, Wednesdays, so this is yesterday, I had every intention of driving by the post office, but I got in like autopilot mode and just completely forgot. So I was like, dang it. And then, of course, today is a holiday, so I was like, this has got to go out. And it was priority envelope, so I knew it would only take a couple of days to get to Michelle. But so I took it to work, and I thought, okay, well, there's we're in a big office building, office structure, so I'll go down where the mail area is, so like wherever all the company's individual mailboxes are, and then there's like a FedEx drop slot and a UPS drop slot, and then there's the mail one. So I open up the mail, it's like a chute, so you pull down the drawer or whatever, and I stick that priority Tyvek thing in there, and it doesn't move. Like, it just sits there, and I'm like, what the hell? So it's like just a little too big, and that Tyvek has way too much, like, friction or whatever. Like, it was not going to slide down that chute, so I And I'm sure there's a security video footage somewhere because I'm sure there's a security camera in that area. So someone watched me close the thing and open it, see that the envelope's still there, push it down in there, and like stick my arm down in the thing, trying to push it down in the chute, close it, open it to see if it's gone, and it is, close it, walk off, then panic, come back, open it, stick my arm down in there, and I can still feel it, so I'm trying to like push it with my hand, trying not to get my arm stuck in the chute, close it, walk off, panic again, come back, try to stick my arm down there again, and I'm just so concerned that the thing is stuck like in the chute where it hasn't fallen through the hole, so the postman won't know that there's envelope stuck in the thing. So yeah, I had borderline like massive anxiety attack over that. Because at a certain point, I couldn't stick my hand down any further to see whether or not I could still feel it. And of course, I can't see where it's going, so I can't see the other side to see, can he see, like if it's stuck in the chute, but can he see the envelope like sticking out? You know, like does he know it's there? So, spent all day yesterday, knew the mail wouldn't get picked up till like, you know, probably 5-ish or after. Spent all day yesterday. And then woke up this morning and thought, I'm going to check the tracking. And sure enough, it was at a distribution center. So I was happy. That just meant that somebody saw it and it's moving. So anyway, that was an absolute nightmare. So those were the first 2 ink circles round robins. I'm sure Nuri's will be to me any day now. So that was... March was the end of my round robin. The end of June was the end of Nuri's, the 4th of hers. So let's go back to April. Most of April was spent diamond painting, y'all. If you've watched back any of the lives that I've done, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. So D's 20 Stitches, our favorite human in the whole wide world, came out with a Trans Day of Visibility pattern for a mutual aid like fundraiser, and I opted, instead of cross-stitching it, because it is a lot of stitches, just stitches alone, it's a lot, but I opted instead to try my hand at diamond painting. So I will show you here, just as a starter, I did one of the corners of the top of the pattern, just to see what it looked like, and I absolutely love it, and I kind of use it as like a little coaster in this room. I haven't decided what I'm going to do with this just yet. I kind of just like it. I covered it in felt on the back just to kind of give it a little more heft, a little more weight or whatever. But yeah, so I really like the way the colors looked together. It just so happened that the green, yellow, white, this corally red, and the blue were like a 5-pack of colors like you bought as a set, and because those were basically the colors of Dee's pattern, I kind of thought, okay, this is what I'm going to do if I'm going to do it. And you're actually sitting on it, like it's down here on the table, but I will insert video here of the actual project because it's quite large. Okay, y'all, I did want to show you this is where I am on my diamond painting so far. I'm sorry for the glare. I was trying to get it to where you could at least see the sparkle a little bit. There you go. That's a little bit better. So this is everything so far that I've done as of today. All the way down. The table is what I was recording on earlier, so I really couldn't roll this out. And I do keep it rolled up just so it's protected and out of the way while I'm working on it and when I'm doing other things, sitting in here so that way it doesn't get damaged. But that is all of it. I don't know if I get the whole thing in the picture. I kind of can. Barely. But that is all of it that I've done so far. And like I said, it's about 60, probably with the background, probably 66%, 2/3 of the way complete. So that was pretty much every day since, I was going to look and see the first day I started it. Trans Day Visibility was like the last day of March, I think. I think that's right, March 31st. So yeah, so I started April 1st, and I've been pretty consistent with it. So the only catch is, or not catch, but the only major difference between cross stitching it and diamond painting it is I've got to fill in all the background. So, and that's actually gone pretty well because I will do enough of the actual stitching part, the motif, that then when I get to a certain point, then I'll go in and kind of, fill in the background and fill in the background and fill in the background. So I kind of do it in steps. So, and that's been my, so far my Friday lives. That's what I've been working on. There have been a couple of other days that I've also worked on it, either when I'm home and I just need to get a step away, from the work computer for lunch or whatever, and I've got some time. I'll come back here and put a few drills in. But I think I am, based on the stitch count, keep that in mind too, and it didn't, for some reason, and I can't remember why, it didn't work really well in Pattern Keeper, so I put it in markup, what is it, RXP or whatever, that's on my iPad, to keep track of the stitches. So stitch count is, let me see if I can find it. Oh, and actually, what's interesting is the first 3 days of April was working on the little corner, because I wanted to get that working. Okay, so stitch count is, based on markup, is 12,227, and I am 62% done. So, and that's just with the stitches. So in addition to that, I'm having to fill in all the background. So I'm probably about pretty close to 2/3 of the way through the whole thing. And I've got plenty of the gridded sticky fabric left over, so I got to decide what I want to do with the rest of it. I considered doing one of the tapestry. I was going to say Trans Pride, but I started stitching that, and I hate to have spent that much time on it. I've only done like the corner, like flowers or whatever. I have not done any of the major, like the unicorn or anything. But I was looking at the dimensions of the other one that's been released, and they're fixing to release a third one, right? Dee and Kari. The dimensions are too big for this fabric. This Know Thyself is just narrow enough width-wise. I've truly got about a 1/4 inch on either edge of the fabric, so it fits width. Height is not a problem because the roll of fabric just goes on and on and on. But I kept thinking about one of the tapestries. If I do it though, I'm going to have to cut it. Now the Trans Pride tapestry, I did figure out how I could make it smaller, but the unicorn would no longer be the center. I would basically have to cut either all of the plants on the left, the flowers on the left, or the flowers on the right. And so I can't quite figure out if that's what I want to do. But because the second one, the lesbian type Pride tapestry is also the same dimensions, basically, I would have to do the same thing. And it's trickier. The Trans Pride one is actually easier to do because the floral border is actually truly like a border, so you can actually just, you know where that edge ends, and you can kind of make it work, or what, I mean, you can make it work. But the lesbian one is actually more of a I don't know, a there's no way to cut it off without, like, I don't know, making it not look quite right, because if I remember correctly, it's like the top is like a bow or ribbon or something, but it goes all the way from corner to corner and then comes down, and then kind of the same, similar at the bottom. It's not like a square where you can kind of manipulate the edges. So I can't decide what I want to do with that yet. But I am going to have enough fabric that I do want to do another one, and I think it's definitely going to motivate me to want to do another one when I get this one finished. The other thing I did was I did my one of Dee's Let's Make a Statement. So this is the Gender Affirming Care Saves Lives. And this one I had to kind of do something similar. So Dee had put lions, full-bodied lions, on either side. So I stopped at just the head. And then if you have the pattern, you know there's also a crown down here, which obviously it wasn't going to be big enough, but it worked for this. So that's what I ended up doing with this. So I'm really super happy. Right now this has just got water in it. It's really hot out there, y'all. So I did do that. That was also in April. And then worked on my Stitch for Pride. I will show all of that off together here in a minute. So then in May, I worked on my Know Thyself. I worked on my Stitch for Pride. And then I also worked on, because it was Marumi May, I worked on my Defiant. This was the design that Miriam designed for Dee for their birthday, I'm almost sure. And that's how far I got. I'm so excited. I think I talked about this last time. Maybe that, or maybe I mentioned it to somebody. But so previously all I had done was just the bird, the hawk, and I only had like I had the wings, I had all the outline done. I had most of like one wing filled in. But I did all the rest of that fill in, did most of the border, or most of the edge, you know, the frame, and then started in on the border. And I absolutely loved it. And I hoped for May that what I would at least get done was the bird. So I'm so happy I got so much more done than just that. So, and this is on, I know this is a Fortnite fabric, called Edith. It's a linen. Been using a lot of my, since Fortnite Fabrics is no more, there, that's a little bit better. I've been using up that fabric kind of, if I can. I mean, if it fits a project, I've been kind of doing that because I'm not going to get any more. I used to be part of their monthly club or whatever. Got so much fabric. I don't buy it that often. I think Jessie Mislaid Pages is about the only other person or shop that I've bought fabric from. I've got so much back there that I'm good, so I really am trying to shop my own stash before I buy anything that I have to buy. Oh, and the Defiant, really quickly, is a Roxy Floss Co conversion. I think I've pulled, these are the only colors I have left to stitch with, but but it was a conversion of Roxy Floss. I think I've pulled all the colors out because I ended up using them in other projects. So and I knew I didn't need most of those colors anymore. But that's what I was using to stitch. And then I also, again in May, worked on my Stitch for Pride. And then last month in June, I worked on my Know Thyself. I worked on my Stitch for Pride. I will put it up here because it is not here. It is at my cubicle at work. Stitchy Nutty did a second, another little chart. Nutty, forgive me. I think it's on Gumroad if you want it. But it was a public domain little woodcut that she converted to a cross-stitch project. So my little snails now live with my owls, which she also designed, up at work in my cubicle. So happy. And that, my friends, was a quick stitch. Let me tell you, because I did it like in a weekend. 657 stitches. It was super, super, super quick. So, like, basically, like, Nutty released it, I bought it, found a really pretty mislaid pages fabric that I absolutely love that was green, and stitched it up and framed it and took it to work. And I was going to say, I think that was all done on a Sunday because I took it to work on a Monday. So, did that. That was on the 16th. Boy, is that right? And then on the 20th and the 29th, if you aren't familiar with Ctoan, C-T-O-A-N, it's a company that is a Black queer-owned company that designs mostly candles that are representative of queer full-figured bodies. They also do stickers. Their candles look like this also. They also do stickers. I got a couple of stickers in the mail as well. But in addition to the sticker purchase, they have cross-stitch patterns, y'all. So I bought two. This was the first one I wanted to do. This one's called Fanny, and it's a trans pride represented pattern, and I absolutely love it. And this is a Roxy Floss variegated conversion, and I absolutely love it. It is absolutely adorable. And then I have waiting in the wings, because I am going to stitch the other one I bought. It's the Brooklyn Pride. I think I have a picture of it that I can put up here. I don't think the patterns are just the pattern. I mean, I think there's a picture with it. Let me just double check, because if I can, I'll put it up here. Yes, okay. So I'll put it up here. I want to do Brooklyn. So I have my little, and you see how small these are? They're really teeny tiny. I mean, that is truly this hoop was what I stitched it on. So I'm going to put Brooklyn on here. And this fabric is the other half of my 40 count determination from Mislaid Pages that is for my Stitch for Pride fabric, because I only needed like half of it for Stitch for Pride. So the other half of it, that's what I'm putting on here. So I haven't decided what I want to do with this yet. I really want to do something kind of special with it, but I haven't decided just what yet. And there are a bunch of those patterns too. So I think once I get done with these two, this is the other thing I'm trying to be better at. One, I'm so grateful they are PDFs, because that's just cuts down on paper, and they are Pattern Keeper compatible. I found out after I posted this, is it, hold on a second, y'all, because they responded, commented. Fine Frog Stitching. If y'all know them, they're the ones that designed these for Ctoan. So I was so excited to learn that. So anyway, there are several of them. I think there are maybe half a dozen, 5 or 6. So I'm definitely, but what I was about to say was I'm trying to get better about, not that I didn't want to purchase all the patterns at once, but I'm trying to get better about pacing myself and not purchasing things that I'm not going to actually stitch. But this was such a quick stitch. The other ones are really quick stitch. I want to say they're like, that one's like 800 and something, 867 or something like that. Maybe the other one is. This one's 1327. But yeah, they're really super small. So it took me like 2 days and I finished it. Really super quick, really pretty, really cute. So yeah, I'm kind of thinking that if there's 6 of them, I think there's going to be enough that I can fit 3 and 3. And so the 6 of those will go on here. But I'm not going to buy another one until, or maybe another 2 at a time or something until I've finished the first 2. So there is that. And then I mentioned the henna mandala. And then the other thing I did, and I've only worked on it a couple of days. I worked on it on the 26th. And then I worked on it again, I think, yesterday? Maybe? Yeah, yesterday. Was Dee bought Hemlock and Rye, Julie, Kansas City Girl, and a Colorado Worlds, Thursday Priscilla Dawes, and Dee mentioned that they were going to stitch the goth version, and so I pulled mine out and I did a little bit. So all I had before was the flowers basically in the center, and then like maybe a couple of those triangles or something. So pretty much everything else, well, I take that back. I think I also had some of this dark green up in here. But anyway, all the bird is new. This little basket, cherry basket or berry basket up there is new. So yeah, so I did that in the last couple of days. Put a few hundred stitches in it, so I'm happy with that. But that was just to, there are several of us that when Dee posted that they were going to start theirs, we all decided, we would do a Thursday stitch along with Dee, so that was exciting. And I will probably keep this out. I don't stitch on Thursday often enough, and I think it's just because it is a rather large project. It is also kind of a I don't know. I'm doing the Brights version, the DMC, just DMC. And I realized the other day, or yesterday, I think I've pulled some flosses out of there. Either that or I didn't have all the colors. I need to go back through and find the colors that I'm missing because there are a bunch of them. And I do remember it being a big, huge floss ring, so I'm thinking I pulled them for something else and haven't put them back yet. But I do need to just kind of make that easier to work on for myself, so that way when I want to pull it out and work on it, I can. So I was kind of excited to just get to work on a whip and do all that, along with a bunch of friends. So, and then the only other Sal that I'm actively participating in currently, only because Amy and Nitya and, forgive me, I think that there's somebody else, started the Monarch Watch Sal, and the goal was starting on July 1st to stitch on primarily something with a monarch butterfly, because there are a lot of patterns out there. But again, trying not to stitch anything, or try not to buy anything new, try to stitch on the things that I have. And I had a whip that had butterflies, so this is Lady Man 1844, or 1844 Lady Man, I guess, by Michelle Bindi Stitchy, and it has 2 butterflies on it. They're probably not monarchs, but that's okay. They're still butterflies. So I did, basically that's what I worked on. I went ahead and did the rest of the letters because it was going to help with my spacing and anchoring that one butterfly, but butterfly, and then there's like a little, sun that looks like it's trying to kill you in Mario Brothers up there. So I worked on that, and I will continue to work on that this month as well. So that is my lady man. Other than that, the only other two things I worked on cross stitch wise are my Stitch for Pride. As you can tell, I'm not exactly going in order. January, February, March, April. Is that right? Yes, April. May's up here. As you can see, I did not start. January, February, March, April. April threw me for a loop. So, not the pattern, me. I messed up. So I got all of this border done and this Polaroid done. Then I came over here. I think I did this border. Came over here and realized I had missed a stitch in here somewhere. So this, I had stitched like all of this and all the way up and around. Came back around to realize I was not. So I had to pull out all of that Polaroid and then pull out some of these, the border of that Polaroid, and pull out some of these stitches, get that extra stitch in, move this all up, and then I was fine. But basically, this ended up being, instead of April, this ended up being May. So then May came out, great. I had a color picked, and then I had a different color picked, and now I'm rethinking my color again. So I haven't quite decided. I want like kind of the perfect color for that one up there. And then June came out, and it was Frida Kahlo. And as you can see, I'm kind of a fan. These are 2 of 4. Actually, I'm a fan, but my bestie is like, Frida Kahlo has always spoken to her because of the disability, because of the trauma and the anguish, and there are a lot of things about Frida that my best friend can relate to, that personally, on a personal level. So several years ago, I'm going to say pre-pandemic, but that may not be right, but several years ago, back a while ago, I don't know if y'all remember, it was the first one of its kind, but they did that Van Gogh immersion exhibit, and it was going all over the country, probably up into Canada, maybe too. Maybe it's traveled all over the world now, I don't know. Well, a few years back, they did a second one, and it's Frida Kahlo, and so for her birthday, I bought her tickets, and we went. And it was amazing, and we had the most amazing time. I don't know if you've ever been to one of those immersion exhibits. It's kind of hard to explain. It's not hard to explain. It's kind of one of those where you can't put it into words, because you want somebody to experience it, not just tell somebody about it. But I think one of the rooms, well, each one of the rooms, we sat and, watched the whole thing on a loop. But one specific one, I think we sat and watched it almost twice on a loop. Because it was just so moving. But the piece that always spoke to me was the deer, with the arrows through the body, but it's her head. I don't think you can see it very well, but yeah, that piece is the one that I'm drawn to the most. But then also anything where she, like this is a self-portrait that she did, but she's wearing a man's suit. Those kinds of things. Any of the revolutionary stuff that she did in response to, just what was going on politically at the time. Any of that kind of stuff I absolutely love. But anyway, so this was a set of 4 magnets. They aren't holding up very well because they're really, really, really heavy, so they just kind of want to just slide off the thing. So I just kind of put them there as just kind of to look at. They're not really needle minders, just there just to be part of my piece for now. But when June came out, yeah, I was still undecided on my floss color, and then Frida Kahlo came out. I was like, okay, I've got to stitch that now. And of course, now it's July. I've barely put any stitches in this, and I am actually, yeah, you can see a little bit of sparkle there. I actually went back and the etoile that Dee chose for the buckle for the Trans Pride Unicorn, and it's also the etoile that Dee has put in all of his pieces, all of his So Let's Make a Statement pieces. That same etoile is what I chose to use for this one, because I did want that yellow. I very much wanted that yellow because my bestie also loves sunflowers, so it was like the perfect color yellow. And I wanted it to sparkle. I really, really did. I wanted it to stand out. So anyway, so there we are on that. Yeah, I'm going to continue to work on that. And then July is a native, I think T said that the artist is Cherokee. I'm saying Cherokee, but then I know that it was mentioned that it confused me. The artist is also a member of the Choctaw Band. But anyway, so I don't know if that... I mean, I see the word band, and I don't know if that means like a tribe, or if that means, you know, a group of Choctaw. Usually, like here, Texas and Oklahoma, Choctaw are very big. It's the Choctaw Nation, Cherokee Nation. But I don't know. I know they're also called tribal bands. So I didn't know if that meant like a music band, or if that meant, I mean, I haven't read yet, obviously. I need to do my homework. I need to do my learning. But anyways, but I think the initial statement, though, was that the artist was Cherokee, which are also big here. So, big from around these parts. So, that was my July. All right, so that is everything except for what I was going to talk to y'all about next, which is if you all remember back in March, my last regularly whatever YouTube episode, I had mentioned that every month for the rest of the year I was going to be stitching a bird. And not only a bird, but a bird wearing a bandana. I also mentioned that these birds were specifically chosen because they are species of birds that are monomorphic, which means that their gender is not expressed in a way that you can visually tell whether or not they are male or female. They are birds that if you saw them, you would have no idea because they all look exactly the same. And I don't mean I mean primarily by color, feathers and that kind of thing. But also there are some that I know in doing my research on this, some of them it's size, like they look exactly the same, only the male is bigger or the female is bigger, but until you see them side by side, you can't tell. There aren't enough of those that I'm technically like trying to, steer away from them. The ones that I'm choosing specifically are ones that are actually found in Texas. They are birds that are very, very common in this part of the southern half of the United States, really. And also, because especially where I am right next door to Oklahoma. Like I can get to the state line in a couple of hours. A lot of these birds will also be familiar to Oklahomans as well. But the reason for doing this was about the time that I had made this decision, the story came out about Next Benedict's passing, and it really kind of broke my heart, because I have non binary relatives, and to me, Next Benedict's story I took very personally, because I know that the people that are in my family and in my life have been very lucky that they have had a good support system around them, and have always been in places where they could be themselves, be comfortable, be around people that love them, that let them be who they are, without judgment, without any kind of serious, ramifications or blowback, for expressing their gender, their identity. So, when Next Benedict passed away, it was also very heartbreaking, because my in-laws, a lot of my in-laws are from, and some of them still live in Oklahoma. So to see that happen in a state that and all of the and since then, all of the stories that have come out since then, just how wrong that whole situation was handled, how the media handled it, how people it became so polarizing. It just absolutely just killed me. So anyway, I don't want to get too far down that tangent again, because basically every time I work on one of these birds, that's what I do, is I sit and I think about all of that, and it just bubbles up every time, and just gets me angry, gets me emotional, all the things. So with that, I do want to show you, though, it is now July. So this ended up actually getting started in February, only because January was the goal. To do the first one in January, and it just didn't quite happen. So February is when the first one was done, and I will do 12. I was going to do throughout the year, so the last one will end in January 2025. So this is February. I think you all have seen this one already. This is the chickadee. So this is number 1. Number 2 in March was the blue jay. And this one by far has been my favorite so far. I really do. I loved how this one turned out. So that's March. April, which I had a couple of different versions of this, but this is the one I went with, was the great horned owl, which I absolutely love. And then in May, I did on a different piece of fabric, because I wanted some of the colors to stand out a bit more. Uh-oh. Hold on, y'all. In May was the great blue heron. And this bird is so recognizable, is all over. You see them everywhere. If you are anywhere near water, freshwater, saltwater, anywhere, they're everywhere. I have tons and tons of pictures, and it's one of my mother-in-law's favorite birds too. And then in June, we've got a mockingbird. So yay. And like I said, I've got July done. Designed, not stitched. I've got it, that's not even true. I have July picked out. I've started designing it. I have not finished it yet. I've got to do a couple of things to touch up, and then I'll start stitching it. And I'm not going to tell you what it is. But needless to say, I absolutely love this project. For those of you who have any interest at all, Gumroad, Ko-Fi, if you want to buy individual, like you just like one particular pattern. If you'd like them when they're released every month, I did set up a Patreon for that. And I've been posting them there since I started designing them. Because June was Pride Month, I held off. I basically, May's got done the last weekend in May, and by the time I got everything, pictures taken and the pattern put together, it was already June. It was like the 2nd or something, so I waited because Pride Month had just started, and I did not. I mean, I could have still posted it, but it's like I just thought, no, there's no reason, there's no hurry, this can wait. So I just posted May's and June's kind of back to back here in the last couple of days. All the proceeds from the individual pattern sales will be split 50-50 between Outreach Denton, which Denton is a town right here next to me. Outreach Denton is a nonprofit that I was looking for one that specifically had youth, queer youth based programs, not just adults, but youth. And then the other half will go to Freedom Oklahoma, which has been kind of the big queer program that has kind of been very vocal and supportive of Nexus family and that kind of thing. So all the proceeds of individual sales will be split 50-50 that way. If you do sign up for the Patreon, the tiers that there's one tier that is just the monthly pattern with like the other background stuff. That one will be split 50-50 between the two. Anything above that has extra stuff. So what I will do is I will divide those proceeds in half. And then that half, it's the math gets tricky, but essentially, yeah, any tier above the pattern level, because there are other things involved, the pattern half will go to the split, the donation. And I've been donating to them every month. Like basically I get my email reminder. Thank you, Jennifer, for your monthly donation. I just set it up on auto renewal or auto pay every month for the both of them. So I did that along with like Doctors Without Borders, and there's another one. I can't remember now who it is. But yeah, essentially there were about 3 or 4 of them at the first of the year that I just was like, nope, just set it up on auto pay, just make sure you get my money every month and we're good. So but yeah, so I get my email from both of those, and then I'm like, oh yeah, it's time to pick a new bird, design a new pattern. So that's kind of exciting. And I pretty much have the rest of the birds picked out. Now, what order I do them in, I don't know. I mean, it'll be just whatever I feel like. But the pictures I wanted to point out on the patterns, other than the owl one, we've been out and heard, because owls usually, they're more active at night. You hear them. They're everywhere. But you don't hardly ever see them. And so the only pictures of owls that I have are not great horned owls. I've got a picture of a barred owl, which aren't really around here, and I don't know if they're monomorphic or not. I haven't researched it. Maybe, possibly, but I don't know that for sure. And I do have a picture of another owl that I don't think we knew what it was. We just had like a silhouette, so it's a bad, it's a night picture, and all you can see is just kind of like, the shape and a sky, a sky where the sun's going down or whatever. So I don't know what that one is. But anyway, other than the owl pattern, all the other patterns are my pictures of these birds that we have gone places and seen and taken pictures of. And I tried to make sure, like with the heron, for instance, the heron we took the heron picture that I used was taken at a wildlife refuge down on the coast of Texas. So I tried to make sure that my pictures were from Texas places. But there will be a couple of exceptions, I think, because one of them, I'm almost positive the picture was taken at a wildlife refuge that's like on the border between Texas and Oklahoma, so I don't technically know which state it was taken in. And another one, Oh, I was gonna say I can't remember what the second picture was on the heron pattern, but a lot of my heron patterns were like great blue herons were like there were some on the Pacific Northwest, and there were some from the Gulf Coast, and there's some from like around here. I mean, that bird is pretty prolific. It's pretty much everywhere. It's pretty recognizable, at least in North America. Um, but there's another one coming up that I had to try to find a picture of, and I think I only have one, and it may not be. Yeah, it might be. Yeah, I was gonna say actually, I think it is from. I think it is a picture from Texas, but I think it's like it was like at a zoo or a wildlife rescue or something like that. So there are a couple of them where like I know they're in Texas. I have seen them, but like you can't always get pictures, of them. So that's kind of been a little bit tricky, but almost all the rest of them will either be from my backyard, which was the mockingbird, the blue jay, the chickadee, backyard photos. Though heron, we don't have a lake in our backyard, so we're not going to have herons in our backyard. But they are definitely walking distance away. I'll probably find some. And then, like I said, the owl was just one of those where it's like, yeah, I'm not. I don't have specifically a great horned owl picture, so I did have to go with stock photos for that one. So that it kind of is what it is. Other than that, if y'all are interested, kind of the other thing that's kept me going this month has been books. Um, I will say, especially when I'm working on my diamond painting, I have been reading. And what I tried to do was, so when Dee released the pattern, that was at the end of March. There was a reading challenge that month. And I was going to look and see if I could find what it was called. Trans Rights Readathon. So I ended up reading 15 books in March. And the Trans Rights Readathon specifically was like that last week in March. But I ended up reading a lot more books even after. Like every time I would work on Dee's pattern, I would listen to an audiobook. When I worked on Defiant, the Hawk pattern by Marumi Crafts, I specifically chose Iranian queer books. So I finished 2 or 3 of those. But I read, in no particular order, just went through them. Read The Bone Witch by Rin Chipeco. I finished Hell Followed With Us, which was a book that I started way before, and it's Hell Followed With Us is pretty good, but it's if I had to compare it to something, it's kind of like somewhere between like The Walking Dead and Handmaid's Tale ish, and it was kind of very I can't quite explain it. Just very traumatic, I guess would be the word, but like dystopian, but like sci-fi horror dystopian trauma. I mean, it was like there was a lot going on in that book, so it was really and it had a very heavy religious theme to it, which for the purposes of the book worked extremely well, and I guess that's kind of where I pulled The Handmaid's Tale from. It was a very good book, but it was very, very different. Like the voice was very, very different, and the tone was very, very different. So it was something that I really had to be prepared to listen to. But it was good. He Who Drowned the World, which I didn't realize until about halfway through. It was like the second in a series, so I've got to go back and read the first. It was really good, but it was like I realized about halfway through, I'm like, man, there's a lot going on. I'm just like trying to. It was almost like Game of Thrones. Like there's so many characters, like you're trying to keep up with it, and then I realized, oh, there was probably a first. The first book probably explained who these people are. That's why I'm so lost. But it was still a really good listen. I mean, I just need to go back and like listen to the first one. Most Ardently, which was a Pride and Prejudice remake, was very good. I absolutely loved that one. The Dawn Hounds, that was a dystopian futurist, futurist kind of, remind me a little bit of like Blade Runner or something like that. Or if you're a fan of Terry Pratchett, a little bit of the like the Night Watch, the series books, very good but very different. I'm currently still reading through Transmogrify, which is a bunch of little novellas like put into a larger book. So I've read a couple of the smaller short stories in that one, but that one's really good. Her Majesty's Royal Coven's pretty good. It's different, but it's a good book. It's I don't know if you read the synopsis, if you're into doing that before you decide whether or not you want to read a book, it's pretty on point. I did read a book of poetry called Syntax Error, which was very good. Syntax Error. And it's just what it sounds like. It's a bunch of poems, but written using, like a couple of them specifically are poems written using coding language, like for computer software coding. And so it was really good in that it's always really nice to read or take in art where you get to kind of know what a person geeks out about because of the way that they express themselves through their work. So that one was really good. Short story self-published that I read was called The Practical Man's Guide to Cheating Death. That was fantastic and truly like short. It was like this says 19 pages. It truly was a short story. That was the most wonderful little read I think I've ever read ever. Sunbearer Trials, which I cannot say enough about Aiden Thomas. I don't think there won't be a book that I won't read that Aiden Thomas has written because that was fantastic. Lake Lore was really good. The one that I surprisingly at the end absolutely loved, but it was another like dystopian kind of violent trauma whatever, but I Keep My Exoskeletons to Myself was a fantastic book. It was very sad in places, but it also had very witty, quick, sharp, snarky humor, sarcastic humor, and I absolutely loved it. So that was a really good book. Cemetery Boys, Aiden Thomas again. Cannot say enough about those. If you like Sunbearer Trials, that one is called Sunbearer Trials, right? If you like, or if you are familiar with Percy Jackson book series, Sunbearer Trials to me is very, very similar. It's somewhere between Percy Jackson and Hunger Games. Like if you kind of mash those two together a little bit, those two types of stories, but it is Mexican gods instead of I was to say that's kind of the way it's described is essentially Mexican, Central American. I don't want to call it folklore because it's something other than that, but their previous generations and civilizations, belief systems and that kind of thing. It's actually really, really, really good. Sorrowland was really good. It was really sad and very, and it was also science fiction-y horror, but it was very forlorn, but it was good. Nimona, I can't say enough about Nimona. Nimona I actually knew about first because there is an actual animated movie out there. You should go watch it, absolutely. But if you like, the animated movie was just touched me on so many different levels. But the original was what am I trying to say? A graphic novel. I was gonna say comic book. That's not right. Graphic novel. The graphic novel is even better, and it's funnier, and it shows you all the other like storylines and whatever that they didn't necessarily, I guess, didn't think fit well with the movie. Didn't work well with the movie, but the novel was fantastic. Juniper and Thorn was really good. It was slow in the beginning. I actually checked that one out from the most all of these I checked out from the library, or I purchased audiobook them. There were only a couple that I physically read just because that was the only way to purchase them or whatever. Juniper and Thorn was good. It is based on I think like Russian, Eastern European folklore. And so I was not familiar with the folklore in and of itself, like the stories that it was supposed to be based on. So in the beginning, it was rather slow, and it took me a little bit to get latched on to the actual story. But once the story got going, it was actually very, very, very good, and I finished it rather quickly, actually. So then, other than that, the two that I read that were the Iranian author, Abdi Naziman, Only This Beautiful Moment, and Like a Love Story. Only This Beautiful Moment is a beautiful story. It's 3 generations. It's a grandfather, father, and son, and they're kind of different experiences through growing up in the States, in Iran, and in the States, and their lived experiences that are affected by queer experiences. So it's absolutely beautiful. Like a Love Story, actually, I didn't like better, but I liked differently because it was set in the 80s, and it was at the height of the AIDS crisis, which was very personal to me because I have close friends who are still affected by that to this day. But also just all the 80s kind of just pop culture, Madonna's a big through line through the book. I mean, that kind of thing. So that to me was very a little more relatable, I guess maybe you'd say, just from that standpoint. But Like a Love Story is absolutely fantastic. And then the another couple that I read, listened to, Dear Mothman, I want to bring up only because it's actually meant for not even young adult, teenage, young kids. I'm going to say middle school age, preteens, teens. Because the characters are, I think they're either 5th grade going to 6th grade or 6th grade going to 7th grade, somewhere in that age range. But it's written diary style. So the storyteller is writing a journal to Mothman. I think they live in Pennsylvania. But it's journal entries, writing to Mothman, telling Mothman about their day. But it is the children involved, the narrator, storyteller, the journal entry person, the main character is a little trans boy, and it's just absolutely beautiful. But it is, I want to recommend it to anyone who either has someone young in their lives who might be either struggling or trying to find their identity or find themselves, because I think it does a really good job of highlighting and explaining how we all know what we went through being a preteen, a teenager, and how puberty starts to hit you, and you start to try to figure out like your feelings about liking people and whether or not they like you back and what does that mean and all that. But then you add the element of also trying to get over the hurdle of having an identity and having to explain it to people and having people accept your identity for who you are, and with all of that comes wanting to be called another name, wanting to be identified as another gender, wanting to be, but for all of us who had cisgender childhoods, that we basically went through our entire childhood basically going along with the binary and just knowing, this is, this is who I am, and just kind of chugging right along. But then puberty hits you like a brick wall, and you have all of those things that just kind of just mess you up inside. I mean, just emotions and mental changes and all that. Add a layer of identity, dysphoria, gender dysphoria with that, and that, to me, that Dear Mothman book does a really, really gentle, loving, graceful job of, presenting the character's perspective, and I think the journal entries is what does it so well. It's this kid writing letters to Mothman of all creatures, and just telling Mothman about their day, about what they're going through and what's going on, but you get to hear their feelings and their expressions and their emotions and whatever, but written down as a journal entry to tell Mothman what's going on in their life. So it's a really good book, and it was really crappy too, because it was one of those deals where I think I checked it out, started to listen to it, and then something happened around here, personal life, and I didn't realize I was up against the deadline. And so there's two different, not to get off on another tangent, but there's two different methods for checking out audiobooks with our library. One is the library itself has a collection of audiobooks that you can check out and check out and check out and check out and recheck out and whatever. And then there's also Hoopla, which is a service that the library also provides, where you can check out not only books but movies and music and TV shows and electronic, any kind of electronic media that's allowed. But each library, independent of each other, depending on what your library's service, the terms of their service determines how many books or pieces of media that you can check out. So in our case it's 4, and so Dear Mothman happened to be checked out close to the end of the month, but not close enough to where when my 2 weeks were up, or whatever it was, 10 days or whatever it was up, and it cut me off, I was out of renewals until the next month, so I had to wait. So it cut me off. I was almost done with it, so I had to wait and then recheck it out and finish it. So yeah, that one was really good. And then another one that I actually read this on just the other day, the 24th, was Black on Both Sides, A Racial History of Trans Identity, by C. Riley Snorton. It's a more academic book. It is not a novel. It is not a story being told. It is more of a, like, I could see this book being on a reading list for a culture studies class or a gender identity, gender studies class or something like that. It is written very academically. It's very good. I ended up, the 26th must have been a weekday, either a Monday or a Wednesday or something, because I think I listened to it at work. So I had to find busy work to do, or I had busy work to do at work, so I didn't have to pay attention to what I was doing necessarily at work. Like I was just going through the motions, but I needed something just to kind of, keep my mind occupied. So it was a very, 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 very good book. I've read a couple of other books similar to that, and as a matter of fact, I think the two that I'm thinking about, I haven't finished either. They're more on feminist studies, not on necessarily gender specific, well, kind of, but more on economic, more on capitalism and how, trying to think of how to phrase this to where you get all of the themes. So this Black on Both Sides deals specifically with the intersectionality of being trans but also being black, and how slavery created a currency, a means of transaction through African bodies, black bodies, for the purposes of transactional whatever. Then you add a layer to that of not only do they become currency in a country like the United States, but then they also become sexualized. And then you add a layer of once these people have, even before they have their freedoms, but once they have a general sense of self and identification, then the race and the sexualization then adds a layer of gender politics and gender identity that then they also have to deal with. And in doing so, they have to deal with the push and pull, the tug of who they are seen as, a black male or a black female, who they want to be, which may not align with that, and then having to deal with society, especially up until even now, how they are having to deal with society punishing them, essentially. But that book, a couple of the other books I'm reading, deal more with capitalist systems that are in place, dealing with more specifically female, but more generally speaking, reproductive systems, and how the two kind of go hand in hand, or how one exploits the others. Not that they go hand in hand well, but that capitalist systems exploit reproductive systems, and choices that we get to make as people about our abilities, our freedoms to make those choices for ourselves, and that capitalism kind of thrives on us not wanting, but on us continually choosing to pump out, more and more labor, because that's how they see us. They don't see us as people, they see us as labor. And then the other book goes even a little bit deeper into how it deals specifically with the idea of witches and witchcraft, but more generally speaking, heresy and heretics, and how capitalist systems, and people who generally speaking align with alternate views and alternate systems of practice, which for white Christian white supremacist systems would look back as heretics, heresy, look as witches, look as those as witches or satanic or whatever. But the third book is about that kind of clashing of systems, about how if you aren't white and Christian, then you're evil, essentially. But those two books on capitalism and white supremacy and witches very much read the same way this Black on Both Sides books reads. It's just very academic, very written as a tool of study, not necessarily a book for leisure or entertainment. So if you do choose to read that Black on Both Sides, I highly recommend it. Just be prepared that it's more of a it's an academic read. It's you need to go into it. Remind yourself, as I did, that you don't have to take a test on this when it's over. So just enjoy it, but just recognize that it can get a little intense with the terminologies, how things are described, how the terms that are used are, there's a lot of discussion of systems and commodification and stuff. I mean, words like that we don't use in everyday talk unless you're an educator or a professor, or you're studying, for a thesis or something. You're at a secondary post-education level. You don't talk with your friends on YouTube about your cross-stitching and then proceed to talk about systems and commodification and those kinds of things. So but anyway, so in addition to all the stitching and all the book reading, I will show you just a couple of things. I did do a little bit of knitting. Not a lot, but a little bit. Just really quick. If anybody is doing the one stitch to rule them all or one knit to rule them all, with the long distance stitchers, it was kind of the using the trip to Mordor in Lord of the Rings as a length of time in order to, I know he's had enough, I've had enough, we're almost done here. The travel from the Shire to Mordor in Lord of the Rings, or not from the Shire, from Rivendell when the Fellowship is created, right? Am I right, nerds? Good Lord help me. Anyway, that length of time, the long distance stitchers had chosen to stitch the Namari tapestry, which Modern Folk Embroidery Jacob did. We all chose to, do that. Did any of us get it done in that amount of time? All but one of us did not get it done. Kim got it done in that amount of time. But in addition, I think Jessie, Miss Lay Pages, asked if there could be a knit alternative. So there's a shawl called the Arda shawl, and I think Arda is the word term for the earth in Middle Earth or whatever, where all of that resides. So there was a shawl alternative, and that I think up to like somewhere in here, maybe right in here, I had knit. I didn't leave my stitch marker. I should have, or a progress keeper or something. Up to like here, I had knit during that time frame during the SAL, or CAL in this case. But then I think all of these colors, the oranges on up, and I'm starting into the yellow now. Those are my two. I've knit since then, so March, April, probably just March and April. I don't think I touched this in May or June. So I did a little bit of that, worked a little bit on that, and then I did pull this out because as many times as I wanted to sit down and do this with you all, I had not had a chance. I had pulled this out at one point because I was so excited that I had this sock done and I had started a second. But I don't know if you can tell by looking at this. Okay, this is going to get loud. It's going to get clicky and it's going to get loud, so I'm really, really sorry. This sock is about 13.5 inches long. That's a big foot, y'all. So when I knit this one up, my toes, if I put my foot in the sock, my toes actually stop here. There's like another 1.5 inches, 2 inches of toe is too big. Well, my brother-in-law, my sister's husband, has really big feet. So I told her at the time, I said, hey, if I get done with these socks, I started the one, finished it, realized how big it was. I mean, seriously, y'all, like the length of my arm. That's like crazy. Anyway, I told her, I said, if I get done with these socks, if I do the second one, do you think Brandon will wear them? She said he might, especially during the winter, during the colder months. I said, okay. Or if he goes, out during the winter, for camping or something. I said, okay. Well, I did. I started the second sock, and I got the heel done, and I did the turn. Well, folks, I was not paying attention. That's how much smaller the second sock is. Now this one fits my foot. So now I have to decide, do I want to keep these for myself? Because I'm pretty sure the conversation she and I had, we're talking years ago. Probably I know she does not remember. So I've got to decide whether or not to pull this back out, rip this back out, and rip it back down to about here, and then put in my heel again, and whatever, because I obviously will have plenty of yarn. Or do I do a third? Like, I will have enough yarn that I could either do a third normal pair of socks, or yeah, I would only have enough to do a third, like, shorty, regular length sock. So that's what I've got to decide on these. But yes, didn't even come close. Didn't even come close. But you see what I was talking about. My toes come to like here. See, that's the length of my foot. So anyway, this is my sock journey, y'all. I don't know about anybody else, but if I can only knit one and never go back and knit the other, then when I do go back to finally knit the other, I can't remember what I did, so they end up being completely different and weird and strange and whatever. So that's now on hold again. And then finally started this. But I started this because I mentioned gonna be leaving for vacation in a couple of weeks, and I wanted a knit started that I could take with me as my knit, my travel knit, while I'm gone. But this is another, I don't know if you remember last year that I had knit a Boneyard shawl, which is a Stephen West pattern, and it is a super simple knit. I started a second one. And I did this during Pride Month. I'm so excited. But I think I'm going to leave it. I think this is where I'm going to stop for now. Because I think like I said, I'm going to take this with me on vacation. Not that I'll get to knit it that much, but if I want to knit, this will be what I'll want to knit. But this is Knitting Nurse Jasmine's Can Yarns, her Big I Do Crimes. I bought 2. I was going to do, there was a new top, sleeveless top that Jessie Maid had just come out with, but when I realized the pooling on this is very colorful, I didn't think this would, I didn't think the color pooling would, I just wasn't sure if that top, it would be very busy, and the pictures that I've seen of that top, everybody's colors have been like either well, for one, they've all been like a solid color, but they've been like a baby blue or a sage green or something like that. So he's really giving me grief, isn't he? Anyway, let me get done with this. So all I'm trying to say is, went back and decided, because I love this shawl pattern so much, I wanted a second one, that I thought this would be a good color for it. So, and I had to make sure it was something that I had plenty of yarn to do. So, if you want to see what it looks like wound up on a ball, ta-da! So that is my other knit that I worked on. Yay! But like I said, this is basically where I'm gonna stop on it for now, until a couple of weeks from now, and then I will take it with me. Oh, and this is my Trans Rights for Human Rights. This is from the Crafty Queer. I bought a bunch of stuff from them. Absolutely love it. So that is it, that is it, y'all. That is everything. I tried to keep it as simple as I could so my pile is not terrible. Fortunately, I'm a little more stick to just one or two working on one or two things at a time. I haven't done any whip go really since, that's probably not entirely true, but I don't think I've done anything that I haven't posted like on Instagram, for instance. So if you follow me over there, then you'll know what I've worked on whip go, if I've worked on anything, or done any projects. But whip go keeps going along, and I'm glad I did what I did this year, which was I did one whip go Quirky Quakers, and I did one whip go Patreon. So that was, and I kind of the last couple of years adopted the whip go. It's just a suggestion when I have no other suggestions, or I have no other things I can stitch on or work on. But obviously I've got enough to keep me busy, so I'm good with that. I think that is everything I wanted to talk about. Just a reminder, we are not free until we are all free. What's going on in the world is really weighing heavy on my mind. I think I had a conversation the other day. Well, I think it came up during my live with Nithya that I have to make my consumption of social media a more present and focused attention a choice. It cannot be passive social media for me does not work. I cannot be on social media and just scroll. Now I do still, don't get me wrong, I still do that. I am not a yeah, I am. I'm a subject of it, just like everybody else is. My will is not as strong as I would like it to be. However, I am making a more concerted effort to be on social media with intention. That was the word I was looking for. That I am choosing to be on there because I know the things that I am going to be, the themes that I'm going to be dealing with, the subjects I'm going to be subjected to, are the people's lived experiences that I am going to witness and make space for, hold space for, are, I need to do it with focus, with intention, with be present and not be, oh, here's 15, 16, 20 posts about the genocide in Gaza, and okay, I gotta go do the dishes now. I'm trying to sit with it. But with that, it takes a toll on my mental health, as it should, if it didn't, there'd be something wrong with me. But so my new direction in which I'm going is, if I am going to be on Instagram, if I'm going to be, like, I don't get on Facebook hardly at all. I got on it today. Same thing, got on there for about 30, 45 minutes passed, and I was like, okay, I gotta get off here. Fortunately, my Facebook feed is more curated to friends, family, close friends, family, and a few organizations I follow. So my Facebook feed is very, very different, in that it does not, my Instagram feed is much more current events, real life, what's going on, that kind of thing. So I made the decision for myself, because it is what is going to get me through this, push me through this, and keep me focused and engaged, and allow me to make the biggest impact when I have the time to do it. Like it used to be, I could, it's on your phone, right? So you take your phone to work, you go to work, something comes up, you get a notification, you go to look, and then all of a sudden, 45 minutes have passed and you've just been scrolling. It's like, you can't do that. So, my change in behavior is to, okay, you're going to sit down. This is what I'm telling myself. You're going to sit down. You're going to get on Instagram. You're going to get on Instagram to the point that you want to see what all your friends are doing, what all your friends have to say, share anything that you feel is relevant, appropriate, needs to be said again. Make sure you've engaged with enough accounts and people and posts that the message is getting out there, that you're helping spread the word, whatever is being, whatever message is being given. But then go see what all my friends are up to, see what they're working on, give them some love, and then, tell myself, you have an hour, you have an hour and a half, you have, X number of minutes. Do this, but then you're done. And that's it. And then I might do it more than once a day, but I do that. And I haven't gotten to the point yet that I've needed to, but if I need to set a timer, I will set a timer. But it's just, I want you all to remember that if we're all here to liberate each other, to resist the systems that oppress us and oppress our friends and our families and our loved ones, we have to be in it for the long haul, and we have to be here to do it. So, if engaging, consuming social media, or, the accounts that you follow, take something from you that you will not get back if it makes you weaker. And I don't mean weaker like you're less of a person. I just mean weaker in the sense of like mentally, physically, whatever. Take the break, because you're important. We need you here. We need you fighting with all the rest of us. And the systems that we have to motivate us can also, hamper us. So you have to be strong enough to consume social media to the extent that it invigorates you, motivates you, activates you, makes you passionate, makes you angry, makes you upset, but not to the point that it's going to weaken you, to where it's too much, to where it's taken too much and not given, and you've not been able to, act. It's forced you to curl up instead of get ready to fight. So I have found that works for me. I will just, it works for me. So that's all I want to remind you all, is that we're all in this together. We can't do it without you. Take the breaks you need to take the breaks you need to, but remember that you're not doing this alone. You're not in it by yourself. We all want the world to be a better place, but it's not a better place if we aren't all in it together. So that's it. That's all I got. I'm done. Astro's yelling at me. It's about lunchtime anyway, so that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go get a bite to eat, edit this. Hopefully it'll be up today. Hopefully. And yeah, do a little bit of stitching, do a little bit of knitting. Find something good to read, hopefully. Work on that a little bit, and if I get this up on the 4th, keep an eye out. I'll try to jump on live on the 5th. I can't promise anything. I don't ever want to promise anything because everything always changes all the time. But yeah, hopefully, maybe I'll see you all on the 5th. So, I love you all. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you around. Bye for now.